All right, everyone. We are here live, Hebron, kind of live. I always feel funny when we say live because in theory it airs in 2 weeks.
Right now, it's live.
Right now, it's live.
In person.
In person.
There we go.
So the wonderful voices you're hearing with us today, like I just mentioned, are Andrew Muntz and Paul Campbell from the O2 podcast / Ohio Outdoors. I don't know what you guys like to call yourselves.
We have some identity issues. It's a 2022 thing.
Someone said something that like Ohio Outdoors is better for SEO, which I don't.
You sure?
I had to Google what SEO was, so that tells you where I'm at. But I don't know. I like O2 podcast.
O2.
Better
Stay
than-
hydrated with
That's
brown
it.
water, typically. Though.
You know, when I came up with that idea, it was like O2, it was like oxygen, get outside, Ohio Outdoors, one of these like play on words that perhaps I should have really thought out better. But to be honest with you, with our whole show, it kind of just came out of nowhere anyway, so
For
whatever.
Sure. So that guy that you're seeing on the video, he's blending in with the rest of the camo today. That's Andrew. So he's we gotta make fun of him a little bit today.
I'm that guy.
We'll have he's gonna be that guy today. So
What hat do you have on? It's backwards. We can't see it. What is it?
It's my half
No,
rack.
it's a
half rack.
Okay, there you go.
Half rack.
I'm also going to the woods as soon as we get done here, so
There you go. Well, we got sent some scent spray over there for you when you get over. So these guys were gracious enough to have us on probably, what was that now, 2 or 3 months ago
Yeah,
at this point in the summertime?
right before the Tethrd event.
Right before so it was in August to kind of promote the Tethrd event. I know we have some mutual friendships and relationships there. So we thought what better to do than to have some guys come in the store and just talk hunting. There's not really a specific topic that we're trying to cover today. This is going to be the most comfortable podcast. We're sitting in some sweet chairs.
Yeah.
So we got the recliners out. They hooked us up with their headset mics, and I'm excited. This will be fun.
Mine too.
So
thanks for having us on, man.
Absolutely.
I appreciate it.
yeah. So we picked a great day too. So they're doing inventory. So if you hear any background noise, that's what that is.
We shut the music off though.
Yeah,
Yes.
Which
had to do that.
no more
Yeah.
Post Malone.
No, they have some bangers in here sometimes, but and the fan. So we'll have to see what we do with the fan because I remember the last time we had the issue with them and the fan, but yeah. Oh,
Having some mic issues.
Having some mic issues.
Turn
Turn
this
Paul up a little
I'm
bit.
gonna put my
'cause I
good
can't
side of the
barely hear him.
Instagram
Oh,
camera.
there you go. Turn
How
it
about
up.
now? Is that better?
Yeah, I
Do I
think so.
sound better? All right.
Perfect.
Is that good for you guys?
Oh, yeah, that's fine.
I can adjust it in post too.
Okay.
Yeah.
We can change
So-
levels.
Man, you guys are like, they adjust stuff in post. I don't even know what the hell that means. Do you
Dude.
do that?
Yeah,
Yeah.
we
Nope.
we edit separate tracks, so we'll have 4 tracks. We'll edit
Oh my
separately in
God.
Audition.
Yeah, we
make
use
sure the levels are clean.
Adobe Audition.
You
If
guys
you
are
use
on it.
Adobe Suite or anything like that, I'll go through and have everyone in there and cut out when people aren't talking and stuff. It's a pretty good deal.
They're
You
the
should try it
real
out.
Ohio podcast.
I don't
They got
know
this
if
under
it's really
control.
worth it. I don't know if people
Yeah.
notice. I don't know. It
The
might,
ones
it
that
might
I've
be all
listened
for
to
nothing.
sound great.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
I will, yeah.
We're trying to sound good. We
No,
we
you're
try.
doing good.
We do try. So it helps that they pay us for it. No, I'm just kidding. But no. So when this releases, so right now as we're recording, they're starting to pick up. I don't know if the does are quite receptive yet or not. And
It's
from
happening.
my experience, yeah, I've heard mixed results. But I'm planning on airing this next week, so we'll kind of be in the middle of the rut. But just want to get an update where you were. I know you, Paul, you had some different adventures this year, draws with killdeer.
I did, yeah. So I drew a controlled hunt at Killdeer Plain. So it was in the wildlife refuge, which it's terrible. It's the worst place in Ohio to hunt. Don't ever apply for it.
He's
Because
really
you'll
not
hate
joking.
you'll hate it.
No deer.
No, it was.
There's no deer up there.
Yeah, there's no deer. So.
Lot of
But so yeah, it's in the DSA, the disease surveillance area. I'm sure Tonk talked about that with you guys.
Sure.
I think the issue up there is there's a massive deer population.
Yeah.
I mean, I've never seen like a concentration of deer like up there. I mean, just driving down the road, just deer. They were everywhere.
That's awesome.
The deer sign, and it is a wildlife refuge, so there's you can't walk through there, you can't hike. I mean, you have to have an
You gotta
access
have a permit to get
just
in.
to be able to go
okay,
in there.
really?
Yeah, so it's closed to the public except during controlled hunts, and then obviously if there's conservation work that goes on, I actually talked to the wildlife officer up there. And then 2 of the conservation workers. Yeah, go ahead.
Just to clarify, that's not all of Killdeer.
That's
right?
not-
That's just
yeah.
where you
Where his
Correct.
concentrated
Yes,
area.
yes.
Yeah.
the
Yes.
permit side of things.
Yeah, so I was in the wildlife refuge.
Okay.
It was wild, man. I mean, you couldn't pre-scout. I mean, so you just have to. I went in blind the first day. I took a friend of mine, Justin. We just set up. Looked on the map, and it's totally flat up there.
Yeah.
So, in hill country in southeastern Ohio where I do most of my hunting, you can kind of look and see like terrain features of, okay, like this is going to hold deer, this is going to funnel deer, whatever it is. And I've never really hunted much flat ground, so I'm like, well, shit. Where do I go?
Oh, sure.
And so we were both on deer from the word go, and I don't think there was a bad spot, but I really, after I think my second hunt, did some scouting, just walking through, found some good areas, talked to some of the people up there that work for the state, and they're like, oh, yeah, that should definitely be in this area here.
Yeah.
And he was right.
Yeah.
So I was, talking about, you came out of the stand on your last hunt or one of your hunts this year, and the only buck you saw was when you were getting out of.
that
was Ben. Yeah, you're getting out of the tree, you see a deer. So I get out of the tree, I'm walking, I'm just trying to find an area, and I'm sitting down, and I'm hot. It's freaking 75 in November.
It's ridiculous right now.
And I look up and there's a doe. And I'm like, oh my God, there's a deer.
Yeah.
Like I did it. I found a deer. And so I get up and so it's an Erna buck up there.
Okay, yeah. We're familiar with that whole process.
So she's about 20. When I see her, she's about 40 yards. And she's walking right at me. She has no idea. She was kind of hesitant, she's walking right at me. And so she turns, I draw back and I look and I can't see any of my pins in my bow.
Ugh.
And so I pull my head up, and there's a piece of grass that is covering all of my pins except for my 20-yard pin.
Oh, geez.
And so I had to wait for her at full draw to get 20. And you know how slow deer are. I'm just like,
especially when you're at full draw.
Yeah. So by the time, because my bow, when I let it go, it's an ordeal, man.
Yeah.
It just that let off. Yeah, arrows flapping around. So I have to wait for her to get to 20, and I'm just like, oh, hurry up, man! I'm shaking like crazy. And she gets there, and I send it right over her back, and I bury my arrow into a tree.
Yep.
So, but talking to the folks up there, they were just like, man, don't pass up anything. We got a deer issue.
Yeah.
And so I ended up a few
now, was
days
it
later.
mandatory testing?
It was, yeah. So
with you having the permit, I wonder if I know after November 5th, it was mandatory for, what did he say, like a week or so?
Yeah, they had a few
several days that they do it mandatory.
And then
yeah, they
during
had a
gun
few
season,
random days. Yeah, gun season in those counties. But yeah, anything that I shot and killed on that was mandatory testing.
Yeah, which is, that's fair enough, right?
Yeah.
So you got.
And it's super easy.
Game. Yeah, exactly. Just take it over to a taxidermist,
a certified taxidermist or processor. If you're doing it yourself, you just have to leave the head in one of their bins. So yeah, really easy. But yeah, it was a great hunt. I had a ton of fun. I think it's really cool that the state kind of does some of those controlled hunts.
Yeah.
You had one at Kill Deer during turkey season.
Yeah.
Oh, did you?
So came home with the exact same thing you did.
Yeah, nothing. I mean,
Nothing.
not for lack of critters being up there, but
yeah.
No, and that's what when I was up there, I couldn't believe. First of all, turkey are not my bread and butter. They're not my priority in life. I just happened to pull this, and I couldn't believe the deer sign and the deer we saw. And I joked that on the drives in and out in the dark, it was like it was like Big Buck Hunter. I mean, they just kept running across the screen,
really?
right? Like you could have just all of them. And so when Paul pulled that, I'm like, dude, you are walking into a money zone for deer. And every time he was up there, he'd be like, oh my God, they're here, they're here.
So I think the big problem for me was just not knowing anything.
Sure.
You can't, and just trying to learn. And I had I had 10 days, but I had so many days to hunt. Work, family, and all that thing. All that stuff. So,
life.
Yeah, we know how it is. But
yeah, so they gave you a certain time of the year to hunt. Like you had to
online draw, or did you have to go up there and do it in person?
It was online.
Okay.
Yeah, through the
it
state.
was online.
I think it's part of the app. When you buy your permits and stuff, you can apply for that stuff, right?
Yeah, they opened it up, and it's for I think a majority of July.
It's kind of like how we did the Hebron squirrel and the Hebron fish hatchery hunts and stuff.
Yeah,
it's the same scenario.
Yep,
yeah. Okay.
Yeah. It's a little bit different than what we did.
I just wondered if it we do the black hand. We've done it for the past. Well, Jordan.
You have
didn't
to
do
be
it
in
this
person
year,
for that.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, you have to be in person, and let me tell you what, man.
Was there a lot of people?
It's like 120 plus people out there this year.
Wow.
Did you get it?
I drew for it. Yeah.
Oh wow, good for you.
last year
lucky.
Last year we drew. I don't know what I was doing. I couldn't go.
You went last year. You didn't go this year.
Yeah, I didn't go. Well, yeah, and then I was one of the last 3/4 of the people drawn, and I still had the first 2 weeks of opening. That's
wow.
We've talked about this before, but it was perfect, man.
Yeah.
We were covered.
Yeah.
It just couldn't connect.
Yeah,
it was.
It's funny. You get all those opportunities, and they're all lotteries or drawings for the most part. But man, I get Ohio's heavily public land or private land, and the whole permission idea is tough. But we've gotten some great opportunities, and it's not because we have a podcast. It's because he stuck his name in a drawing, and I've drawn.
Yeah, they
some
don't care
drawings.
about that stuff.
No,
You're just a person.
not at all. Right.
Yeah.
But we've had some good opportunities. And if you look to the right spots, you go to the Black Hand thing, you know, talk to different areas. I don't want to give all my secrets away.
Well, no. The Black Hand was kind of hard to hopefully no one's listening. But it's actually kind of hard to dive into the website and find it. They don't really have it like readily available.
Really?
Like that special in-person controlled hunt stuff.
To find the draw date, it's kind of a process.
I had to call
really?
her. I think I emailed her or whatever and told you. But yeah, it was I just stumbled across it a couple years ago. I'm like, oh, let's try it.
I get emails from ODNR of like the most random stuff. They got waterfowl ones now that you can get into.
Dude, they got a squirrel one.
So if you pay attention to that stuff, like a lot of times they'll be in those emails or whatever. But there's a lot of opportunities, I guess is what I was getting at.
Oh, yeah.
Killdeer has they have those daily waterfowl draws. I think it's just like 2 days. It's like Wednesday, Thursday, something like that. And I was up there during one of those, and it was insane. I mean, the waterfowl concentration up there is wild. The sandhill cranes were in my little zone. There's a pond out there, a wetland.
The prime rib of the sky?
Ribeye of the sky. Ribeye of the sky. Man, they were everywhere.
I remember that from the turkey season, how the geese that didn't shut up all night long. I camped next to a pond, and it was 3:30 in the morning. I'm like, what are you even talking about? It's like domestic abuse going on over in the pond, you know?
That's
the geese
awesome.
are getting after each other.
That's awesome.
Oh, man. Good
so
stuff.
that's you're not really a big whitetail hunter, right? You're more turkey. This is kind of your first.
So
how's this?
So I've deer hunted for 15 years. Turkey hunted for just a few months.
And you were saddle hunting this time too, right?
Yeah. So I stopped.
Tethrd.
Oh man, it was cool.
They're just back
they're just over our shoulder. Yeah, they're pretty good. I prefer turkey hunting, man. I think about it 365 days a year. I talk about it. Fortunately, with my job, 365 days a year. Whitetail hunting, I like it. I like to move around.
Yeah.
And I think I'm too big and clumsy to move around in the whitetail woods, but the turkey woods, I can get away with some of that.
Sure.
I will say this guy Muntz really kind of re-energized some of that passion for deer hunting this year, and I've really enjoyed it so far. Most of my deer hunting success has come with a shotgun. Yeah. So I've archery hunted. I've had some success there, but the best deer I've taken have always been with a shotgun. Yeah. And I think the last deer I shot with a shotgun, I want to say it was like probably 2017, and I'm just like, I've had enough. And I started duck hunting. Yeah. during the winter.
Yeah, duck hunting. That's a blast too. But you would like it. I was out Friday. I did a 12 to dark sit. It was like 7.5 hours. Yeah. And I had a flock of about 6 or 7 hens come in. I'm like, oh God, please, please. I was like on my phone, like getting ready to, do I buy the permit? Do I not buy the permit? Okay, how close are you? Yeah. You get in 50, I'm buying it. Right. And they ended up working to my left and never got closer than about 115, 120 yards. And I was like, that was a cool sight. At first I thought it was a coyote. Oh, really? I was like, oh yeah, here we go. And then more and then more. You know how their feathers kind of like glisten in the sun. Yeah. And
beautiful birds.
But they're a good time. So before we get too far, awesome killdeer story. Let's talk about the podcast in general, and then we're going to get into Andrew because we got some fun to make with him.
Ooh, buckle up, son.
No, I don't want to put salt in his wounds, but we'll get there. Let's dive into the podcast itself and kind of how you guys picked it up. Did you start it originally, or did you pick it up, or kind of how did the podcast? How did the idea come together?
You want to tell the story?
Sure.
Yeah.
So I've been listening. We're on the Sportsman's Empire. At the time, it was Sportsman's Nation, but the Sportsman's Empire Network. About, I don't know, a year and a half ago, I'm listening to it, and there were some guys that did an Ohio thing. So the way the whole the network is kind of set up is we've got different states represented. So Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Missouri, Ohio. There's a southern contingent, kind of Iowa. But these guys were doing Ohio, and they decided to call it quits. So shout out to the Huntsman for getting it started. But I get it. They're just like, yeah, we're done. Yeah. So I sent a message to the guy who runs it. His name's Dan Johnson. I said, hey, what are you going to do about this Ohio void? And he's like, I don't know. You want to do it? And I'm like, well, I don't know anything about podcasting or audio. I'm really kind of an average hunter at best. Hey, Paul, what do you think?
Just drive me right into it.
And Paul's like, sure. And so our jobs are both in sales and talking to people and stuff. And we sat there and we're like, I think we could do this. We could have conversations and go through the process. we absolutely will not claim to be experts on anything. So
Same.
That's what we just try to talk to people that are,
Yes.
and how to relate that to Ohio. We've tied in a little bit of news and stuff around the state every week in our intros. But anyways, so Dan's like, send me some demo episodes, and I always say this because it's so funny to me. He's like, one of three things he's real all business. One of three things is going to happen. One, I'm going to tell you good, you're on. Two, I'm going to give you criticism, and you're going to take it like a man. Or three, I'm going to tell you don't ever talk to me again.
Or four, I'm just not going to call you back.
Right. So we kind of hit that in the middle range. He gave us a little bit of critique, but then was like, hey, well, we're going to release it on whatever day it was, and let's go.
Well, the demo episodes have never seen the light of day.
And
Oh, really?
They made,
Yeah, we did, maybe 3 45-minute.
bad.
They were. We
I don't know
should
how he
release them
kept
at
us.
some point.
Do a
Yeah.
little throwback action.
We should, yeah. It was. I mean, we didn't know what we were doing. We still don't. You
Yeah.
just kind of limp through it. But it was. We started the show with a third guy, Corey, and he just stuff got in the way, life got in the way. He couldn't couldn't commit to it. I mean, because as you guys know, it's way more.
It's a lot of work.
Yeah, than what we were thinking.
He's up in Northern Ohio. He's
Yeah.
one of my buddies from high school. Anyways, but so yeah, Dan was like, yeah, we're gonna launch you. So it was like, oh shoot, Paul, we gotta start doing this, right?
Yeah.
And man, that ball just started rolling. And it next thing you know, we were down at the Archery Trade Association show. Got tied in with the guys at Go Wild, and then we were out at the Great American Outdoors show, and then back to Louisville for Sunday. I mean, we've traveled in Wisconsin, and
You guys had a lot of cool guests on there too, man.
man,
I mean, to have just how funny is it? Like, and we talk about this sometimes, not necessarily on air, but we're average hunters. I'm not claiming to be anything great, And I've talked to. We just had Hornady on. We've talked to Bo Martonic.
Yeah.
We've talked to, Greg Farrell.
Jordan
Budd, who's an
Jordan
absolute
Budd is
stud.
freaking Slayer.
She is. Sam Davis.
Yeah.
Like, these guys and gals are some of the best that are out there.
Yeah.
And it's been awesome. Like, you don't have to be an expert. You just have to ask questions. I mean, have the conversation like you would normally just want to talk to him. Like, we're just sitting here. Like, what would I say to Sam Davis if we were just hanging out by the fire?
Right.
You know what I mean? That kind of thing. And so, you guys had Mark Kenyon, Ed Ashby, Yanni. You've had a lot of big
Doug
names
Dern.
on there. Doug
Tony
Dern.
Peterson.
Yeah.
Dave Owens.
Dave
Josh.
Owens,
Yeah,
Scott
we've been
Ellis.
fortunate to have some good guests, and I think that's what I ask questions that I selfishly want to know the answers to myself. And a lot of our episodes, like, we tried to do, like, Bo Martonic is really good at breaking down a super complicated topic, like thermodynamics and
The
big woods,
for
and
whitetails
he
in
breaks it
October.
down. And you're like, oh my god, like this. He makes it sound so easy and relatable,
He does.
and like that's just not. It's hard. I guess it's hard for me to do. Like a full hour-long episode about that.
Yeah.
So one of the things that
Yeah, he'll do it solo.
Yeah,
I'm
exactly.
Like, I
I'm
have
like,
no
how did
idea
you
what
do
you're
that?
talking
Yeah.
about. Yeah, that just comes from experience, I guess.
So good. And like if you listen to the Giannis Patelis episode, it was just like, man, we want to know about you, man. Like just
Tell your
how
story.
Yeah, and it was super fascinating.
Yeah.
Just hearing him talk about not really hunting, but just like
Him.
Yeah, his process. In the industry and as a hunter and as a man, it was really neat. So
Did you guys ever go up to that Meat Eater live event that they had a few years back, about 4 or 5 years
We
ago?
didn't. I've watched some of it on YouTube. I bet that was pretty cool.
Excuse me. They did a Meat Eater live, like, behind the scenes on the producer side because he's producing the show. That was February of 18, I want to say. Yeah, February of 18, and I went up and did like the whole VIP thing and then stayed the night.
Oh, wow.
And I got to meet him and Steve. Just like we're just literally sitting here. They had some Yeti chairs and people just sat in the front row. Super fascinating to hear how they like produce the show. And then we ended up bumping into each other in the hotel the next morning. I went to go get coffee and they were headed up to Michigan. And he sat there and talked to me for like 5 minutes in the little roundabout swinging doors.
Yeah.
And we just sat there.
You
Right
just
in front
kept
of,
going around and around in the doors.
like I bumped into him. We were like crossing paths, and I was like, "Hey, I was just at the event last night, VIP thing or whatever. You guys did a great job." And
What you actually did was you stopped the door so he
I
was
was like, you
trapped
have to talk
in that
to me.
little pie piece, right?
yeah,
The alarms just
exactly like NCIS, like hitting the emergency button on the elevator. No, and then we sat there and talked for like 5 minutes outside the hotel, and I'm like, dude. First of all, he's a tall individual. He's like 6'4", super tall. And then, but like really just personal too. I'm like, you didn't have to talk to me. Like I'm nobody. And But it was cool to see that. I mean, and just building those relationships. So with those guests, is a lot of that coming from like the Sportsman's Network, like getting those connections, or kind of how did that?
This guy is not afraid to ask to send an Instagram message to anyone.
Yeah.
And so,
Never hurts, man.
Yeah, you just fire off. I said something when Joe Rogan was coming into Columbus.
Yeah.
Like, dude, we should try to get, and we know it's not going to happen, right? And so he's
But
just.
what
sends,
if it does?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like what what if it does? And so I'll throw out something crazy, and he'll be like on it, and he'll send me a screenshot of the Instagram message.
Yeah.
And then like 4 hours later, he's like, holy shit, they said
Yep.
yes. And I'm like, are you serious? So like I sent an email to Cuz Strickland and said, hey man, this is who I am. This is what we're doing. We want to talk to you and Cranky, his grandson. And if you guys don't know who Cranky Strickland is,
Not off the top of my head.
YouTube him. The kid's gonna be a freaking superstar. He's hilarious.
Yeah.
It's Cuz's grandson. What is he? 9 years old, maybe 10. Just a great personality, man. And so we said, hey, we're gonna talk with you, with a couple of our listeners, and his son, and Mark Kenny. We're talking about getting kids in the outdoors.
Yeah, I heard that episode.
Yeah,
I
it was
listened to that episode.
and so I sent that email.
Does he have a big Southern accent?
Yes,
Yeah,
Cuz does. Yeah,
yep.
he's like, I mean, he's the godfather of hunting content creation
Yeah.
that we know. Him and Will Primo started filming hunts back in the mid '80s, filming turkey hunts.
On VHS.
Yeah, on VHS. Yeah, and man, he's awesome. So I mean, 3 minutes after I sent that email, and I always put my phone number in there. Lauren, his daughter, who produces his show for Mossy Oak, calls me and said, "Hey, Cuz is at the Wild Turkey Symposium. He wanted me to call you and make sure that we get it. He says yes, and he's like, he would have called you on his own. I'm like, are you serious? Like,
Yeah.
he actually, you
It's
guys actually
crazy.
took it serious. Okay, hell yeah, let's go, man.
Yeah.
This is when we're gonna do it. So
It's the whole podcast scene is very interesting because people are pretty good to get on, and because it helps build their brand.
Sure.
They're talking about our passion.
Yeah.
And then it's where everything's at nowadays.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
I don't know
Yeah.
about you guys, but
I
that's all I listen to.
The only thing I listen to, even if I'm listening to the radio, it's like Ohio State football talk or like sports talk locally.
Yeah. I'll
But
turn
if it's
music on if I'm in like
Yeah.
mode to Friday night, let it go. But
Yeah, but outside of that, you got to take advantage of that time you're in the car.
I don't listen. I stopped listening to podcasts. I mean, same thing. I was listening to them all the time, but once we started doing ours, I stopped listening to it because I was feeling like influenced by
what other
people
agree.
were doing. So I stopped listening to. I still like I listen to your Cardale and then Jordan Bob, and so like when I see like a guest or a topic, I really I listen.
Yeah.
Working class bow hunters, love those guys. I listen to their stuff, but
It's hard to keep up with them too.
it is.
Yeah. And we going towards a meat eater thing too. Like that was one thing that I know that we didn't want to do. Like when we came on, I'm like, this is what we like. We want to make sure it's like targeted to that direction, right? Like we want it to be informative. We want someone to walk away with this understanding something. I don't know enough to talk an hour and a half like Bo does by himself.
Yeah.
But when you listen to an episode from him, like you're gonna take away something from that, regardless if you're hunting big woods or hunting farmland or whatever. And it's like we want to make sure that we're quick, we're in and out. It's something you can get maybe back and forth from work. Because the one thing I hated about Rogan or even Meat Eater for that example, it's like 2.5 hours is a lot of time to dedicate towards listening to one thing.
It's like a 3-day process to get to all.
And it's like at that point, boom, there's another episode. And if you don't have the time, then it's like, okay, well, next thing you know, you're like a month behind. I mean, I couldn't even tell you the last Meat Eater episode I listened to just because of that simple fact.
Yeah.
Like, if there's a guest that strikes my interest or I see it on Instagram or something, I'm like, oh, they had XYZ on there. It's like, okay,
yeah, I'm not gonna lie, I really don't care about spearfishing. So those ones just go.
Yeah. Well, exactly. Yeah. And so it's been fun. And the other thing that we've been trying to do too is trying to connect. I mean, football's not for everyone, right? But at the same time, these guys are outdoorsmen too. Heck, we found out that Cardell hunts a lot more, like we talked about.
Yeah.
He hunts a lot more than what I even thought he did.
In Central
What a
Ohio,
great-
it's a big deal.
Yeah.
What a great talk, man.
Yeah.
Dude, it was
Yeah.
shout out to Anthony Schlegel. I know he may or may not hear this, but he's definitely been the catalyst for us to connect with these different people.
Yeah.
He literally was like, "Hey, what about Cardell?" and sent me on. You want to talk about starstruck? I've been a Ohio State fan. I have a Ohio State sweatshirt sitting right over there.
Yeah, dude's a legend.
Is a legend,
Yeah.
and it's actually funny. I looked on my memories page today, and apparently he had a really bad game like 6 years ago, and I said some nasty stuff about him. I apologize. No, I'm just kidding. But
You're like, I meant what I said.
I'm like, he shouldn't
apologize.
start.
That's the kidding part.
He
not
shouldn't
the-
start. He shouldn't start. But him or for instance Brian Hartline, having that connection with him, like it's been really inspiring to say, like, when we showed up, I was like, dude, we're like meeting Brian Hartline at the Woody Hayes.
Yeah. How cool
And he
is
was
that?
like, "What's up, guys? How you doing? Oh, this is sick."
So
it was like,
funny story about Brian Hartline. I used to be a golf course superintendent in my previous life, and one day I walk out of my maintenance facility and I see this like green Lotus car in the parking lot, and it's this is like a working class like golf club, right? This is not like Muirfield.
Yeah.
And I was like, who the hell has a freaking green Lotus? Like, this thing's tiny. It was Brian Hartline was.
That's awesome.
I think he had just stopped playing in the NFL, and had come back and
it
rolled into play. Because we had a bunch of former players there, but it was just funny, man. Brian.
He's the polar opposite now. It was the truck as
jacked
tall.
up truck.
It was tall. I couldn't even see like the top of the bed.
Had an
6'1".
awakening. Good for him.
I'm like, good for you, man. But no, it was just super cool because at the end of the day, they're just guys, right? Like Cardell is just a guy. And I think when you get people in that space that are super good at one particular thing, like, he's done forgotten more football than I'll even ever know, right? But we're equal when it comes to being a time in the field.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, like, you can relate and you can kind of level set with someone of that nature. And it's like, yeah, they may be a superstar here, but they're not here.
Yeah.
Where you might be more knowledgeable here, and it kind of just balances it all out.
That's a really good perspective, because someone like Brian Hartline is one of the best in the country at what he does.
Yeah.
And that's coaching wide receivers at the college level, recruiting. Like, I mean, there's not many people
No.
that are even as good as him.
No.
Let alone better than him. So
well, and then we were like, I was like, hey, I don't want to mess up your season. Remember, he was like, oh, guys, he's just like, hit us up if we get past Michigan, just hit us up before the Big Ten championship game or whatever, or after the Big Ten champ. I'm like, nah, like just go take care of business. I care about winning that more than I care about you talking to me. So just go take care of business.
And so I'm gonna throw him under the bus here if he does listen. Anthony Slagle, I messaged you on Twitter last year and you never responded, Slagle.
So my phone's over there. We'll text him.
I'm very sad.
We'll text him. I'll FaceTime him after we get done.
Respond to my and so he was actually embroiled in the Jacksonville nonsense. So I figured I get it, man. Like, here, with some perspective, I understand.
Yeah.
He was probably kind of don't have time for that crap.
I ain't got time for that crap. But
he's a great dude.
He is, man.
He's one of my favorite people for sure.
I used to the morning juice.
Yeah.
Listen, I used to laugh every time you'd hear one of those monsters crack open.
Well, when we recorded with him, I was like, hey, but before we get started, I got something for you. And I didn't even have a monster. I faked it. But that time we weren't video recording. It was Arizona tea.
Okay.
Like,
yeah.
He's like, oh yeah, let's go, let's go.
He's a nut, man. That was good. Good.
And he's a good hunter too, man. He comes in. We help him out with some pricing and stuff. But overall, he's just a great advocate for our company and good friendship. And heck, he's like, hey man, come down and shoot bows with us. Shoot some bows with me. Record a podcast around the fire. I'm like, dude, that sounds awesome.
Yeah, that does sound cool.
Yeah, I'm like, I'm like, where do I sign up now? It's in Circleville, but it's like, there you go. I'll drive down there for that. That's not a big deal. But no, man, I'm glad I want to get some background on that, because I know for your podcast, it's been like I've seen it different when I've been trying to like go like, oh, let's see what they've had, whatever, and I've seen it's been like different people. So I figured you kind of picked it up, but I just didn't know the backstory behind.
Yeah, so we just did
doing it. We
just did our kind of our 1 year anniversary. I think was the first part of October. Okay. So I think for us, I mean, we're pushing 60 episodes.
Yeah.
But the feed has way more than that. Those guys really they did a nice job over 3 or 4 years.
Yeah.
So
awesome. All right, Andrew, it's your time, buddy. It's your time. So
do you want to switch? Make sure Don turn that camera and focus in on him
as he cries. So we're talking. I wanted to get a little bit in from like this isn't going to be a really informative podcast. We're just sitting here chilling. But
the make-believe fire.
Kind of getting a little bit of update. So for everyone, I mean, we all can kind of give an update too.
Yeah.
I'll kind of just start. So I missed a deer with Taylor Haynert. I always say it wrong. I'm sorry, Taylor.
Honert.
Honert, thank you. Who actually just shot a huge buck this morning. I can't wait to see pictures for that. But he brought me out to a spot, and I missed right over his back. Similar to the situation where where you're okay, I'm going to draw now. Okay, now it took 3 minutes. Actually, I have an Ultra View scope.
Okay.
And that timer for the fiber optic, you hit the little button, and it has like your battery powered light. It's 4 minute timer. It went out on me.
Oh my!
As I was getting ready to shoot at like 6:30, 7 o'clock.
Yeah.
And so I was like, that's at least a 4 minute hold. I'm like, son of a gun.
That's tough.
Clean right over his back.
Yeah.
He actually came back in the corner and missed. But for those of you that are listening or may have seen it on social media or on my personal stuff too, like I kind of struggled a little bit last year. I missed a few opportunities, just clean over the back, missed a buck during the rut over the back, and so I had a kind of a bad mojo, if you will, going on. Like I needed to get my shaman out like on Major League and clear that bad mojo. But so I went out with Noah Barnett and Ethan Featheroff, who are a couple of our pro staff members at Feathernet Outdoors, and they set me up on like a doe hunt. I was like, first deer that walks in that doesn't have hard antlers, like I'll shoot. I know you guys are trying to manage this property. It was mid-October. I haven't really posted much about it, but it ended up being like a button buck. He hadn't even poked through yet. It was just like, first deer, and I was like, okay, heart and double lung.
Oh, nice.
Dead in 20 yard, range find 24 after he fell. Oh. I'm like, okay, cool. Like, Allen was my first kill out of the saddle, so that was cool too. So it was like I didn't even think about that at the time because we've shot so much in the saddle. It's like, all right, cool. Bad juice. Like, all right, cool. Like, we're good now. It's been clean, but
keep that bad juice out.
Keep that bad juice out. So. I don't know who else. That's kind of my update right now, but
he didn't even tell. Like I think I saw it on Instagram.
Yeah, dude.
He's my boy. He didn't even text me and tell me he got something. And he's like, "Hey, you at your apartment?" And he was at the crosswalk, and he's like,
"Yeah."
Up his truck.
He's like, "You gotta stop! What the hell?
Let me see this thing, man."
I was like, "Really, not much to show. I think I could pick him. I picked him up with like we threw him up over the fence, and it was just like two of us, like whoop. It was like, I can carry him by myself. I think my morel target's bigger than him. I end up getting, you get your deer process right, and then we've had some people on that were willing and able to do it for us, and it was shot. It was like a Monday night or Sunday night, and it was like work and stuff. Like people weren't really wanting to do that, and so I get my box back from Phillips Processing there in Zanesville, and it was literally just like a 12 by 12 box full of meat. And I'm like, hey, whatever. Back straps are good. That's whatever. I actually got this cape. So Toby, who sponsors our podcast, Toby Burdett Taxidermy, Legends Big Game Recovery. I'm sure you'll hear an ad for that here too. But he was like, bring the hide over, and I'll tan it. And then the little skull, it's just a little guy, So I kept it, and I thought that'd be kind of cool for the kids or whatever, or put it on my desk. Make a pen holder or something. Does
it actually have the buttons started at all?
No, well, they're started, but they hadn't poked through yet. Dude,
those make cool European mounts.
Yeah, so I'm excited. I'm excited for it. So I'm going to send it over to Ryan Olson. We want to talk about being starstruck too. He's on YouTube. Ryan Olson, Whitebone Creations. We had him on. What was that been like?
It was within the first 10. It was a cool episode.
Yeah, you want to talk about someone that you follow, and then they instantly reply back to you. He literally called me like, boom.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, okay, cool. Nice. We had a 30-minute conversation before we even like started
and like
podcast.
Later he sent us some swag, and we commented about I got his hat on. He makes his low baller.
Yeah.
They're like it's a Yeti can koozie, and he takes like a ram scrotum.
Oh, nice.
And like puts around it, so you got like a.
Oh, that's
cool. I commented on him like, hey man, when are you gonna start making those? I'll buy one. He sent me one.
Did he really?
Yeah.
No, cool.
Yeah. Different term for like the low ball thing.
Yeah, literally. Yeah. So he was like, hey, I got these for him. I was like, hey, whenever you get one, like I'll take some, get some hats or shirts or whatever. And he sent it to me. I didn't tell you. I had a separate conversation. I had a separate conversation. And I show up to work. I'm like, here you go. He's like, what? No way. I was like, yeah, my wife doesn't really care for that to be in the pantry, so you can have it. But yeah, man. So we'll see. Get that Euro. I'm gonna have him do the Euro. Sent to California, which seems kind of crazy, but at the same time, it's like, he's sending some free swag. Like I want to keep that relationship up, and he's the best in the business, I think, at doing that, at least in the national scale. So that was my season so far. I haven't seen anything during the rut so far. So what about you, bud?
Mine's way quicker than that. I've been out like 6 times.
Yeah.
I've only seen deer twice. So the deer that I saw the first time, they were does. They were pretty far off. I'll take that back. I've seen deer 3 out of 6. So I went to Dawes. We got the Dawes draw this year.
I got one too.
Yeah. I was walking in.
No such thing as Dawes Arboretum hunts, Ben. Come on now. I'm just kidding.
Don't worry about that. It's all thorns and stuff. You can't get in there anyway. Don't worry about it.
Oh no.
But I was walking out across the field, and there's a giant doe, maybe like 300 yards down, and I thought about trying to, stalk in around because it's kind of maybe would have happened, but I'm not that good. So I stuck to my game plan and hung up where I planned. And I had seen deer out in that little field before, so I was hoping, but I didn't see anything other than the one 200 yards. And like when you came in, Paul, I told you about the one. I was out in some public land, and I sat for maybe 7-8 hours. Didn't see anything but squirrels and chipmunks. But then
that's the worst, man.
It was terrible.
Yeah, that's the worst.
And I know they're out there, and I set up right in front of a trail. There's a nice beat down trail, like maybe 30 yards in front of me. I was on my second stick down, climbing down, and I heard something. I looked up and I saw eyeballs. Shut my light off.
Never fails.
And a little 6-point kind of moseyed through, and then I was hiking out in that same place, and I bumped a giant doe coming out. And all the other times I really haven't seen anything. So it's been uneventful.
Yeah. You've had a pretty eventful personal side too. That kind of helps with that stuff too. I mean,
family and stuff going on kind of cuts into the hunting time.
That's life, man. That's the reality. And I think this is getting a little philosophical, but when we sit here and we look at these guys on YouTube or TV or whatever, Instagram,
toxic.
Those guys, they're out for like a week, you know, and they get the chance. And I'm not downplaying what they do at all, because it's amazing, the hunting public and some of these guys, but we get a couple times to sit, right?
Yeah.
And to be honest with you, so I've got at this moment, I've got permission to a really cool property. I have 1 week in the rut to do this. Okay, we had a really good family friend back in my wife's hometown pass away last week, so there's a lot of that's going to be cut away, because that's more important.
Yeah.
And that's the priority in our life right now. And not to mention 2 school-age kids and everything else going on. Work, I mean, a real job, but like that makes it tough. It doesn't help when your mentality when you're trying to go out and pull one of those huge bucks, and you see all these guys on TV and stuff doing it.
It's just not the same thing. Yeah, you got to put yourself in that spot too. Like, I'm not going to shoot the same thing that Levi Morgan does when I'm hunting Saturdays and Sundays, and I can only kill what I can kill. Yeah. Right? If there's only 4 keys coming around, that's only 4 keys coming around. Yeah. Right? And so it's like, and I mean, I don't want to belittle anyone, because they've earned the opportunity to do this too, but like, they're not hunting the same places I'm hunting. Yeah. Like, you just know that they're going in to kill big bucks in Iowa. They're going to a spot to kill big bucks in Iowa. Yeah. They're not coming to a 100-acre farm in central Ohio that has hardly any type of management per se on it, you know. So
we had Tony Peterson on from Meat Eater just a couple weeks ago, and I made a comment about an article that I had read in Peterson's Bow Hunting by Bill Winke, and the article was "Don't overcomplicate the rut" or whatever it was. And Tony was like, "I'm not going to address that." He's like, Bill Winke hunts, 3,000-acre farms that no one else has walked on,
that are managed.
No one else has walked on in 10 years. He's like, don't get caught up in that stuff. He's like, deer hunting public land is complicated. It was basically his.
And it's hard. Gist. If you watch one of the most recent hunting public things, those dudes sat in a marsh for like hours and hours, and they got one guy spotting, and they got one guy up there with a gun and one guy with a camera, and hours, and they're laying there and they're eating and everything, waiting for that big buck to stand up. Did you see that one?
I haven't seen it yet, but I know what they'd spend a lot of time out there trying to get just one opportunity to.
Like, I did an all-day sit yesterday, and I don't think my wife was real happy about that, but like, that's their job.
Yeah.
That is their job. My job is to sell grass seed and fertilizer, so like, that's where I got to spend most of my time. I will never be there, right? On that. But the idea of going out and spending a rutcation or going out for a hunting trip, we're going next week, like, I look forward to that. I hope we're successful, but if not, it's just not the same with what a lot of the perception out there is.
That's the right mindset to have on it too. I mean, it's the mindset you have to have. So.
Yeah. I know just the hunt that I was on yesterday in Coshocton County, I saw some massive deer, and I didn't get a chance to even get close to shooting range, and I had like a smaller, like a nice mature 8-point, but he was tiny.
Yeah.
And I looked at him. I'm like, if he gets close, I'm shooting him. And I'm not. It wasn't even a thought.
Not even a thought.
Yeah. And he got to about 40 yards, but he never came out. I never had a shot. But I don't know. I put all that pressure on myself years ago.
Yep.
To shoot big bucks that like Mark Drury is shooting.
Yeah.
And I'm on like Delaware Wildlife Area with 30 other people.
Dude, yeah.
And then I finally realized like, it's not the same.
Yeah.
But I kind of burned myself out on it. That's where
you want to, but at the same time, like this is the way I've been starting to look at it ever since the opportunity with Noah and those guys. It's like, yeah, I want to shoot something that we have on the wall here too. But guess what? When I come home, my son, who's 3, he doesn't care if it's 160 or 110.
Yeah.
And like, who else on social media is going to give me that much satisfaction as that reaction right there? You know what I mean? Like,
So
they
true.
were stoked to see that little button buck.
Yeah.
And I'm like, he's 90 pounds, maybe.
Yeah.
And stoked. And I'm like, you know what? Like,
That's
funny?
cool, man.
that's all that matters.
So the last doe I shot, I sent a picture back to my wife. She showed my kids. My daughter's response was, "Meh, that's cool, but he really needs to start shooting something with antlers." I'm like, "Oh, well, thanks, dear."
Talk about pressure. Oh, my God.
Yeah,
From an 8-year-old.
Yeah, pressure from a kid is way more than anyone else is going to give me on social media.
You're going to bring back a buck this year, and she's like, "Nah, you should let him walk. Give him
Yeah.
another year."
Yeah.
That's it? That's it, Dad?
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's perfect segue, man. Shooting bucks.
And, well, we got to start. Okay, so this is long. This is going to take a second. But I did not grow up in a hunting family. I've been very adamant and just trying to fill the freezer over the years. Our family eats 3 to 4 deer a year if we do it right. And so when I go out, that's like my first and foremost. And this year, I've had ups and downs. Man, it's a roller coaster. And back to like the perception thing. Archery hunting is not easy.
It's not.
It is not easy. I don't care who talks about. If you can get a wild animal that big in that close to you to the point where you can even pull back, that is challenge number 1. Mm-hmm. Staying cool and putting that shot where it needs to be is challenge number 2. And to be honest with you, finding it is the other thing.
Yeah.
So I was at an Erdenbuck property early in the year. I saw some, like I set up on these hot oaks and the feed trees. They were great. Next thing I know, I was on my phone, which is whatever. But like I look down and I have 7 deer underneath me, and I'm sitting there thinking, oh, this is awesome. And so one of the problems I had when I started hunting, I probably went 5 or 6 years without getting one. But it was like I had a hard time finding them. So at that point, that was a win, right? Mm-hmm. I've looked at this property. I've scouted it. I found these trees. I figured that out. I had all these deer under me. That one was earn a buck thing. So it was, I'm looking, this is the second day of the season. And there's a little 6-point tried to mount one of these does. And there was 4 bucks and 3 does. Well, she didn't like that.
Yeah, she's like, get off me,
yeah,
bro.
Yeah, too early. So she took off running and took her other bigger sized friend with her, but left this one tiny doe. And I've joked, when everything goes the way it's supposed to is when I'm going to retire from hunting, okay? So I'm sitting there and I'm talking. I got this like a spike, a couple forks, this little 6, and then this little tiny doe. And I told him, I'm not going to shoot that. I mean, this thing was like the size of a Cocker Spaniel. And I'm like, no, don't do it. Don't.
I did it.
Yep, we're going to do it. Because this is your job out here is population control. Let's take care of it. So I pull back, I release. This thing.
Did you bark? Did you bark at it?
I did not. I should have.
We'll
That was another one.
Give it
right?
a Cocker Spaniel bark.
Yeah. And I let go, and all of a sudden I just hear this thump, and I'm like, what the hell happened? Mind you, none of these deer move. Like even the one I was shooting at, just kind of like looking around, no idea where I'm at. Right?
Yeah.
They're all in my wind and everything. I mean, the whole situation was crazy. So I'm like, what the hell just happened? I don't know where the arrow went. I don't know why the deer is still standing there. I don't know why any of the deer is still standing there. Whatever. She kind of eventually like moseys around me and around the tree. I have time to put another arrow in, knock, pull back. Now she's quartering away. I shoot. I hit her that time. I see the arrow go through and all that stuff. She takes off. The other 4?
Nothing.
Just stand there.
Damn, that's what Susan gets for eating all that damn corn.
Well, little Susie just took off out of here, but I'm going to keep eating these acorns. So, So honestly, I could have then re-knocked again and shot another one, but I didn't. I let them all kind of move off. In that same sit, it was about an hour later, I had 2 very large does come in, again, right behind me in my wind. Don't care at all. I'm pretty frantic, but
You can
whatever.
only do so much.
Something's working, I guess. But I pulled back. I'm like, am I here? I'm here for filling the freezer, population control. I've got the tags. So I let that arrow go, drill her. She takes off running. I'm like, all right, at this point, I'm getting down. I'm out of arrows at that point because one of them is actually stuck in a tree.
Yeah.
That first shot I took, it hit a branch and went right into a tree, and I ended up having to dig that broadhead out.
Yep.
And that was, I don't even know what happened. But
I've been there, huh?
yeah.
Remember I snapped that one off? I was
Yeah,
like, screw it.
he did it blackhand.
I just
last
snapped
year.
it right out of there. I was like, whatever.
Yeah.
It's in the basement somewhere.
Right.
So I ended up finding the Cocker Spaniel one pretty easy. That one, and it was an easy drag, except it was dark in an area I wasn't really sure of, but whatever. The other one, I find the arrow covered in blood and everything. Best I can tell you, I hit no man's land. It's possible I caught liver or something that, eventually it did go, but I followed the blood, couldn't find it, went back the next day, really tracked hard. After that, I heard some podcast or whatever talk about dogs coming in.
Mm-hmm.
I think I had foobarred that. Like, I had walked all over, and then it was warm, and so I didn't even have, in my mind, I didn't have the ability to get a dog out there. I probably would have screwed that up. So, let's see. After that, we'll go fast through this next couple parts. I figured out a way. I said I have to figure out where these arrows are hitting because so I've mounted a magnet to my bow, and then I put my phone on there. So I'll show you that.
That video that you showed me.
Yeah. So the next time out, I'm doing this recording thing. I shoot. This was on private land that was over some corn. It is what it is. She was eating. I learned a valuable lesson there that when they're eating, they have the Keanu Reeves Matrix ability to duck.
Sure do.
And I thought it was clean miss. I mean, there was nothing on that arrow. She trotted off. I'm like, oh, that was a learning experience. Go back to the video, and it looks like it just went right over her back. So I'm sitting in that same stand 1 week later to the day. This doe comes in very hesitantly. I see 2 spots on her back, and I'm like, that can't be the same one, right? It's not on the right side. It didn't match up. It's on the wrong side, at least I thought. Well, I then shot that deer. Again, the whole process and of shooting and stuff and timing it. I've never stopped deer because, some of the mentality of if you stop them, you're putting them on alert.
Sure.
I shot her right when I let go. She took a step back and went right into her neck. I'm not proud of it, although I can tell you there was no blood trail because that deer dropped in her tracks and she was gone instantly. So honestly, from an ethical side of things, it might have been the best shot because there was nothing. Turns out she had 2 holes in her back. When she ducked that arrow, it went right through the back strap.
Oh, geez.
I mean, we're talking millimeters from spine. Like, I don't know. The fact that she missed that and then proceeded to live for a week. I mean, and she'd probably still be living.
Yeah.
No signs of infection or anything. I had cut a little bit of meat out just because to be safe, but that was crazy. So again, I'm doe hunting, and the next one was down in a place in Circleville where I hunt. I had a doe come in. I was set up to shoot a squirrel at that point. I was like set. I was done for the day, and then she came in. I put her down. That was the best shot I've ever put on a deer because it was right where it needed to be, and she went really quick. As Rut Daniels say, didn't go 20.
Yeah.
Like, I pulled my truck right up there. Everything was great. Then I get her home, and I'd seen, like Paul and I talking here. Now you got video, Paul. These like in her armpits. It would look. I thought it was maybe the cavity filling up with blood.
Paul's smiling.
Yeah. Good.
Deer boobies.
Deer
That's what
boobies.
I called them on our show.
Yeah, because I'm sitting there
was
like
doing
trying to
this.
explain, like,
Yeah,
what
he's-
is this, And I thought it was the cavity filling up with blood or whatever. She had some kind of cyst in there.
Yeah.
So I lost part of the meat on
They
that.
call it like a hydrocyst or
Yeah,
something
that's
like
exactly
that too.
what it was,
That
yeah.
target buck that I have this year's got one right in the center of his brisket.
Yep. And, again, when everything goes right is when
Yeah.
I'm going to retire. So, but at that point I got, I don't know, maybe 2 full deer if you count the Cocker Spaniel as a half.
Yeah.
Like, I did not shoot a dog, okay? I shot a small deer. We're just referring to it as Cocker Spaniel. But this past weekend, all right, so to the best thing. Now I'm officially hunting for antlers, basically. All the meat gets eaten. It's not just a trophy thing. But I'm also not looking for 180 class deer. Like, I need something that is,
We want to feel happy about
2.5 years, right? That kind of idea, right? Maybe
Yeah.
8 point, something like that.
We're talking like 110, 120 inch.
Yeah.
8 point.
Respectable.
It's respectable, yeah.
And for me, and respectable is different to everybody.
Yeah, sure.
I'm totally about that.
Yep.
I have one on my wall from a gun years ago that I got like 10 point. I don't know how old, whatever. I think about it has to be at like that size minimum. That's for me. And so I have this property. I'm trying to set up on it with a weird south wind, and the rut's starting to kick off. Like, how am I going to take it? I agonized over this map on how I'm going to set up on this. And I do the saddle hunting. I do, I go in, mobile hunt, everything. I'm trying to take away from this past weekend like the good things that happened. And one of the things is I read that map right.
Yeah.
Okay. And I can tell myself that I thought that through and everything. 18 minutes into shooting light Saturday morning, here comes this buck right at me, right? And he sees me up in the tree, but he can't figure out what I am.
Yeah. Looking through you.
Yeah. So he's coming from this direction. He diverts up that way and then down the path, like continuing where he was going to go. No idea where I'm at. He doesn't care about me at all.
Yeah.
But he's scent checking this doe bedding. And I should have stopped him. I didn't because I've never stopped deer, and he was just trotting along. I'll show you the video, Ben, here in a minute. But I let the arrow go, and had I stopped him, it would have been perfect. I lost 6 or 8 inches, maybe a little bit more, out of that step that he took, and caught him in the back.
Yeah.
And when I say the back, it's kind of like the back hams. The arrow went all the way through. I'm in the heavy arrow stuff, and it went basically all the way through. It broke inside of him, I'd guess, or when he caught a branch or something, both sides came out. There was no blood on the ground. There was no blood at all. On the arrows, there was blood. There was no blood on the ground. So
Dang.
I knew that was not going to be a fun track.
No.
I'm not proud of it. Hindsight's 20/20. Should have stopped the deer.
Sure.
But I ended up bringing the dog in. We tracked it. We didn't find it.
Yeah.
He could still be out there. My wife always tries to give me the Disneyland side of things. Like, oh, he's probably alive and he's out there doing his thing.
He's. I'm from what I saw, he's definitely. That was Saturday. I think he's probably dead by now.
Yeah.
For sure.
And
For sure. Just from what I saw, there was just too much, like, important organ back there that would have been hit, that he eventually would have been dead.
Do you think you're going to try to get another dog out there? What's your...
I don't know. I don't know what to think because at this point, what are we? 48 hours after.
Yeah, I think you're probably pretty safe. Toby, what did he say? He's usually not looking for stuff far, far back hits for at least a day.
Yeah.
Like, he's like, people want to, like...
But my question,
about it.
I should call him. But one of the questions, I walked in there. I don't know how much I mucked it up and all that.
Maybe.
It's been really dry. Did we get rain on that night, Saturday night?
That wouldn't have really messed with it too much anyway.
So
makes it better if it
Yeah,
rains a little bit.
Yeah, because wet animals. I used this on another podcast that we were on. Wet animal, like a dog. Like if your dog's outside in the rain and comes in, they stink, and it's the same. The dog is going off of the scent of a dead deer.
Yeah, they're going
not
off
the blood.
They're going off the gland.
Gland in between the in the hoofs.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
The interdigital gland.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Anytime that there's stress, they're releasing a hormone or a scent from that gland, and that's what they're picking up on.
Yeah, he actually said that.
Here's a video
it'll
right
intensify just a little
Hit the
bit.
play button.
But like a light rain will intensify the smell for him and make it a little bit easier. But he just posted the other day too, like he would almost prefer a far back shot because it's a little bit more reliable of a track job as opposed to the front. You got so many different variables. There's areas up there that it's just meat. You get past that rear hind or that rear bone, you're pretty much all solids.
There's a lot of
organ.
arteries and everything back there in that rear.
Real time, because we're live podcasting.
Yeah.
My phone actually just rang with the guy. There's a third guy that's hunting out on that property, and I had told him, I said, you call me or let me know if you find that or wounded dead 8 point.
Hell, call him back now.
Yeah, but like, hey, I'm on a podcast right now.
I'll also tell you, this guy doesn't communicate at all. So
There's a good possibility. He's
Yeah,
probably sitting there.
Go call him back. You guys can talk to me because I want to know. I want to announce.
Yeah.
Either,
I might have to.
This will be a great time for a commercial break.
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll see what happens. We'll be right back. All right, everyone, we need to take a quick break and thank our show sponsor, Toby Burdett with Burdett Taxidermy and Legends Big Game Recovery. As we've mentioned several times on this show, and as you're hearing today with Andrew, when it comes to whitetail hunting, bad shots just happen. If you're in Ohio or the surrounding states and you find yourself in a situation, like Andrew, where you need help tracking, give Toby a call at 740-281-6435. Thanks, everyone. Good luck this hunting season. Now let's jump back into the conversation. All right, we're back.
We're back.
He came back. He wasn't elated with joy.
No. So I got off the phone with that guy. He found some other dead deer on that property, but
Not yours.
not mine. So,
That's a bummer.
yeah. So at this point, I don't know where that deer's at, but maybe I need to get another dog in there or whatever. I'm going to go back out this afternoon and take a look at it. But I'm not super pumped about it, the whole thing, but it's definitely like a learning process. I'm like trying to stay on the positive side of things, but
sure.
you know, it's not easy.
It's in the same area that you showed me before. Mm-hmm. We don't talk about the area, but it's the same parcel.
Same parcel.
Okay. Yeah, it's not too far. But you shoot him up on the south side or the north side?
North side.
The north side.
He ran towards the south side.
Ran towards the south side.
And that area, I mean, it's so thick. We wouldn't know where it's at. There's some areas in there that, you know.
Man, it's like dang mangrove forest in Florida in some
nasty
spots, dude. It's I remember walking through that spot that you were talking about, and I had just gotten into saddle hunting. This was back 2018. Yeah, and dude, you're getting hung up on everything. Your sticks are pulling you out of the way. 45 minutes to walk about half a mile.
That sounds miserable.
Yeah.
Well, it was. I'm like, hey, like I was like, I was gonna ask the people who own it. Yeah, I'm like, hey, can I help you do some trail maintenance? Can I help you do this, whatever? And they're like, nah, no, we got it, we're good. I'm like, okay, well, let's do it.
Right. I'll tell you right now, and just back to reality, it's hot.
Yeah.
And to get out there and try to, I mean, you're talking about playing to win. It doesn't matter what you do for your scent control.
You're sweating.
By the time you get out there, something stinks.
Yeah.
And so it's been tough. It's been a tough go here to start. Like we were just talking, buddy over in Indiana just put down a big boy this morning. So it's happening.
Yeah.
And I'm, if you knew me as a person, I'm very competitive. Okay. And in my life, it's been one of those things that if there's something I wanted, my wife will tell you, if there's something I wanted, I'd read a book, I'd watch videos, I'm going to figure it out, I'm going to practice, I'm going to do whatever I can. I have yet to figure out a way to mimic that adrenaline rush you get in the moment.
No.
And that bothers me that I cannot win in that, and that I haven't figured out a way to master that skill.
Yeah.
And I know it takes time and it takes experience, and it's going to take shots like that one on Saturday. I'm not proud of it, but and I know there's people that go out there and have ice in their veins and just like, oh, done. But
yeah.
Yeah, but even those guys have
the after
shots like that happen.
Absolutely.
It happens to everybody.
We just don't always hear about it.
Yeah.
Right.
No, yeah. I mean, Troy said a lot too. Like, these guys go out there and donk somebody. You won't see all that. Taylor on our team, going back to your point though, like, to mimic the rush that you get when you're getting ready to release an arrow on something, I can only equate it to almost being in a car crash. Like, you get that adrenaline dump where, like, oh, I almost hit that person. If you've ever, like, experienced that, it's like, that's the only way I can kind of give it to, like, a normal person is, like, it's like, something about to happen, okay, and then I'm fine, and then it's like,
yeah.
Like, that's the only.
You get cold afterwards.
Oh,
It's
chills,
just amazing.
Yeah.
I don't ever want that to go away.
yeah, it's definitely a drug that you can't replicate. It's
And,
hard,
and a lot of people chase the meat, and a lot of people chase the horns. Like, both are great. I'm not going to sit here and say that, like, I'm solely just a meat guy, because, in truth be told, like, you want something on your wall, right? It's just, but the one thing that you chase the most is the feeling that you get when you see a deer, even if you shoot it or not, like, seeing deer come in. It's like, oh,
Yeah.
like that,
Time.
that by far, super, I mean, that is higher, for me, that experience is higher than anything else. Like,
Well, it's like a turkey gobble.
dude, exactly.
It's the best, man.
As soon as you're like, yeah, let's go.
Yeah.
It's like,
Pass
it could be a
out,
mile.
wake up.
It could be a mile away. We're like, let's go.
Yeah.
You know,
absolutely.
So I went out. That was Saturday and Sunday. I sat out, and I was like, I need to redeem myself.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'll take a doe at this point.
Sure.
I'll take another decent sized buck. Just, I'm not shooting spots or spikes. That's usually my thing. What comes out yesterday?
The spotter spike.
Here comes out the spike.
Straight out.
Right out. I mean, it's right. Okay, this is funny, right? Next deer that comes down, it's this like broken off, 3 or 4 point on this side. I'm like, okay, this is just getting comical now.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not even 20 minutes later. Here comes another one broken off on the other side. I'm like, okay, like
That's awesome.
little dinky things. It's like
You're like,
These
yeah.
guys are aggressive.
Yep.
I like it.
Awesome. Yeah, that's all I got, man. I know we kind of took that.
Ben,
break
you gotta
late.
ask
I
a
don't know.
question. You
Yeah,
got
what's your
something, right?
what's your?
I mean, Paul didn't go. I mean, we kind of did.
Yeah, he did his killdeer.
Yeah, killdeer.
Yeah. Okay.
I think I'll give you just a quick rundown. Like I
Yeah.
was in Coshocton County yesterday on a property, and I saw
There's no deer in Coshocton County.
no deer.
that was our joke was if you can't beat them, join them. Coshocton
Yeah,
County,
so every-
2022.
Every episode we'll give a rolling count of like the totals. And what was it? Trumbull was in the lead for a while.
Yeah.
Tuscaroras was in the lead. Now Coshocton has had a firm grip on the deer harvest numbers like they do every year. Some killers in Coshocton County.
There's some big deer.
But man, it was just I saw $5, and I had the one get kind of close. I saw a ton of does, and the one thing that I'll talk this guy up on is the reading the properties.
Yeah.
Like I sent him a map. I'm like, where do I go? What would you do?
Yeah.
And it was funny. He's like, I would go here. And so I was making my way there, and I kicked up some does, and there's like this real thick, bedding area. I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna sit here. So I was about 100 yards off of, where he told me to go. So I'm in my tree. I'm in the saddle, like first light, and I hear, whoop, 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 whoop. And I look over, and there are 2 bucks like running after each other, and I'm like, oh my god! And it was 40 yards off of where he told me to go.
That's awesome.
I could see it. I'm like, damn it, Muntz, you were right again. And we had one of our listeners in Iowa reached out to him about, hey, man, break this property down. And Andrew sends me a text. He's like, all right, I'm either being catfished
Yeah.
or I just helped this guy kill. I mean, he set up right where he told him. He shoots this nice, 148, something like that.
5 yards off the ground.
5 yards off. I mean, just unbelievable, man. And so, I don't know. He's my – I just sent him an Onyx. All right, what do I do?
Yeah, that's
So-
a tricky thing, man. That's
It
something.
is.
I was just
Yeah.
having a conversation with somebody on Sunday too, like that, and then I know, and you kind of have the same thing too. Like we were talking to Eberhardt, betting. Like everyone's got an idea of what betting is or what betting should be, or you hear that term like I think almost thrown out to nauseum sometimes. Like people, do you truly understand what you're talking about? And then like right now, it's like okay, I'm in a rut. I want to set up and do some prime doe betting. Okay. Well, for someone that's been hunting for a couple of years, or someone who's been hunting for 5 or 6 and hasn't had to do that, corn pile guy, like, what does that even look like,
Dude?
You know what I mean?
That is one of my pet peeves. Like, I hate that term, and I just used it.
Yeah.
But in my interpretation, it's basically anything too thick that you don't really want to. There's no food in there, and it's thick, right?
Yeah.
That's doe betting to me.
Is there a trick to breaking that down, like e-scouting, like using Onyx? Like, what are you looking for when you're looking at Onyx for? Can you even tell, or just like a guess?
Like with him the other day, I was just looking at the terrain, kind of the ridge,
Yeah.
3/4 of the way up, where the thermal's going to go, where the wind's coming from.
There's a creek bottom.
Yeah, trying to guess on that. I don't know, man.
Yeah.
Half of it, I'm just trying to figure out. But the betting part is so funny to me.
It's like it's almost like I'm doing an observation sit. Like, no, you just had a bad day.
Yeah.
Like,
Where are you, right?
Yeah.
If you're hunting southeast Ohio, that betting is going to be different than if you're hunting Westerville when they sleep in people's front yards.
Yeah.
Like
Right.
I've seen
Yeah.
somebody. I have a buddy down in Austin, Texas. He sent me a picture of a buck bed. It was must have been on like the north side of a fence, wooden fence, because it was shady. That's
Yeah.
where he was buck bedding. Like,
Yeah.
and it was in a neighborhood. It's just I
wherever they
get
wanna
it.
lay.
I get it. There are places where they like are very exclusive or out away from everybody else,
Yep.
but at the same time, let's be real, man. They're wild animals. They'll bet anywhere.
We asked Mike Rax, who is he's a southeastern Ohio guy, and he's got 40 Buckeye Big Buck Club,
Something
which is
crazy.
over 150 or 140, and he's got like 20 some odd Pope and Young archery. I mean, so the guy is really good. And we asked him about buck betting and deer betting. He's like, wherever their butt won't get wet. And that was just like, wherever their butt won't get wet.
I've tried to focus on like what would be like, is it like north slopes or like on, obviously like you're going to try to focus on like peaks and ridges and stuff like that where all the wind can kind of compile in one little area, if you will. But even that, man, like I was mowing behind my house the other day and just went blasting through the thicket in my house. I'm like, never would have thought that.
Yeah.
Like
they cross the road, right?
Yeah.
Like, they're not supposed to cross the road. Like maybe you should post up on a road. Drive down 161 right now. It looks like a bloodbath, right?
I saw on Twitter there was a guy that was talking about like Mylar balloons. Like if you find them in like hill country, it's like the way the thermals work and the air currents work.
I've heard that too.
That there's like, and she had like research, and I'm using air quotes, research about like buck bedding areas
and the balloons
in the balloons. And, like it's
really?
she's like, and she like when she scouts, like she goes out and looks for like Milo. If she sees it, she's like, "Man, done. This is it." And then just like killing big deer off of these.
You're like, I hate that you release these on your second birthday. But
yeah, exactly.
I appreciate it too. At the same time, mine always end up in like in the middle of a field.
Right. I'm gonna start putting like reward if you call. Just let off a bunch of balloons down in like Southern Ohio.
Yeah. Yeah.
see where they go.
Tony Ruffing's listening to this podcast right now, and he's like cussing you guys out.
Oh, is he? Why's that?
He absolutely hates balloons.
Yeah.
Like, what did he say? He's like, I'm happy you had a great birthday, but could you please stop freaking letting your
it was
balloons
like
go?
an immediate, as soon as he said that, he's like,
man. So one of my old golf courses, like there must have been like a birthday party or like some event, and I go in like on a Sunday morning to open the golf course, and it's like me and like two high school kids that don't care to be there. And he calls me like, "There's balloons everywhere." I'm like, "What are you talking about? Balloons everywhere?" Like someone had like a giant balloon release.
Oh, jeez.
And they all ended up on my golf course, and we picked up literally hundreds of balloons.
It really makes
I
you.
was beside myself.
I mean, we're going down the balloon trail too, but it makes you. It makes you.
Shit's
while
getting
we're here,
weird.
We talked about Heartline, we talked about High State and stuff, but like Nebraska fans, they release all those red balloons like during a game. I don't know if they're still doing it now, but I've seen videos of them doing it. It's like, what in the hell?
Yeah.
Like 100,000 people like releasing a red balloon. Like, how is the EPA not getting involved in this?
Right,
regard?
exactly.
Like,
there's some poor bastard on a golf course who's like, "Where are all these red balloons from?"
that's awesome.
And some guy shooting big deer because he found a bunch of red balloons.
Because he found them. Yep. There you
deal.
go. So you guys have a hunting trip planned up?
We do, man.
What's the rest of your season looking like so far?
I've got two more controlled hunts that I was fortunate enough to get.
Paul was winning the lottery.
I was, yeah. So I'm going to Killbuck Marsh for a one-day gun hunt. That'll be cool. And what's neat about these controlled hunts, they don't count towards your state totals.
Yeah, it's good. Yeah.
So
can you use the management tags too?
Tags.
Yes,
Okay.
I can, just in the controlled hunts.
Yep.
Yeah, for antlerless only.
Yep.
And then I've got another one at one of the metro parks, which is going to be really cool. Looking forward to that.
Fun.
That's going to be going to be a gun hunt. And then
I tell you need to find a turkey hunt in Blendon Woods.
oh my gosh! So you know what's funny, man? Like I used to work real close to Blendon Woods, so on my lunch I would drive to Blendon Woods, and I would just sit in the parking lot, and hammer a tube call, and watch these, just listen to these turkeys because there's so many of them. They're so dumb, and people are like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "Just wait."
Yeah.
So they come running out of the woods.
Oh, I love it.
I love that place.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then we're leaving for Michigan here. What, man? 4 days? 5 days?
Something like that.
Yeah.
I got a lot to do before then. But
Oh yeah, you and me both.
we're going up to Drummond Island.
Yep.
So I didn't even know what it was, but
Yeah.
it's way up there,
Yeah.
basically Canada.
Is it
It's like Sault
UP
Ste.
or-
Marie. Yeah, it's in the UP.
You gotta
It's
go
like in the
So when you
boundary
tell
line.
someone you're going to Michigan, you'd be like, I'm really going to Wisconsin.
Right, yeah.
But you got to go over the bridge, which
Yeah.
is what this is it the
Mackinac.
Mackinac Bridge
Yeah.
to Saginaw. That's where you go.
I think so, yeah.
And then
Saginaw. Catch
we have
a
to
ferry.
like go and then get on a ferry to get over to this island, and it should be cool. I'm sure that they have antler restrictions and stuff, but it's just always fun to go hunt a new place.
Yeah.
And it'll be one of those spots where we can go and literally basically off the grid. Like
Yeah.
get back to the cabin, you got Wi-Fi or whatever, but like
Outside of that.
I'm peace, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just let me be in the woods.
That's
What about you guys?
There's nothing better.
Anything good planned?
No, I mean, hunting in the area around here. We don't have any trips. I didn't win the lottery on any of my trips this year for West. No, I don't got anything.
I'm just gonna hunt family property.
family
I got
property.
some permission. One of my uncles
Yeah.
farms a bunch of land, and
It'll be fun. Maybe if some of these people we've talked to on the podcast reach out, like we mentioned to Greg, going down there and just visiting with those guys. I wouldn't say necessarily hunting with them. like we just had Troy from lacrosse on. They're actually in Ohio right now, but that's more or less just visiting with those guys. Nothing out of state destination hunts.
Yeah. There's a hunt that I want to do that I didn't know that I needed until today's podcast. The Jägermeister deer up on the wall. And if you're listening to this and you haven't been to Vance Outdoors in Hebron, you should come out and just see these mounts. I want that. I don't even know what the hell that is.
It looks like a Sika
but that's the Jägermeister deer, right? Isn't that what that is?
It looks like an axis deer from where I'm at, but I can't really see.
That thing is impressive.
Clear.
Once you can see it, you know what I'm talking about.
Right above the caribou.
Yeah, right above the caribou.
Yeah, it looks like I think it might be an axis deer.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what though, that's a pretty sweet hunt. Todd, our owner or CEO, I guess now at this point, he goes on one just about every year in Texas. They do it in Texas.
It's big, I can tell you.
It is big. It looks like the deer on the Jägermeister. I mean, are all of these mounts? They used to have nameplates on them. These are all from the same guy, right?
I'm not. I think they're from this taxidermist.
Oh, is that what it is? Okay.
Yeah.
I think there was one guy that donated a bunch.
Yeah.
But also there was a taxidermist that donated a good bit of stuff.
Okay.
Now the bull that's on the bull elk that's on the fireplace. That's Todd's.
Okay.
Right? So
Good
I'm not sure.
I felt like that's what.
Does Todd listen to the podcast?
Hopefully.
Good job,
for you,
Todd.
Todd.
Hopefully.
Yeah, damn good. Damn good bull. Yeah, there's some massive.
You should see his office.
Massive deer.
You should see his office.
Is it here?
No, it's at our Obet's location.
Gotcha. Okay.
But
Doug has a really nice bull in his office too.
Yeah, Doug, his brother, that heads up our LE area, law enforcement area.
Okay.
He's got a sweet bull.
Man.
It's like probably
What a
pushing
place.
400, right?
Mm-hmm.
If not more than that.
What a place.
He has a pedestal mount, and the brisket of the mount, if you will, is
It's like a foot off
a
the ground.
foot off the ground, and the antlers it's an
Oh
8
my
foot ceiling, kind of about where we are right now, and the antlers are almost to the top.
That's insane.
It's pretty sweet.
Yeah.
It's pretty sweet.
I've
yeah.
never seen an elk in real life.
That's why I don't
Neither.
shoot big deer. I just try to, I don't have 7 foot
I don't have
ceilings.
the, I don't have the
So
ceiling
Yeah,
space for it.
exactly. Yeah, my vaulted ceiling at the house looks pretty barren right now. So
I'm right there with it. I have my 123 inch
Yep.
one buck that I mounted that's up there. So
well, guys, where can if people are listening, if they're not listening to ours, they definitely be listening to yours as well. Where can people find you guys?
So you can find us. The show page on Instagram is the.o2.podcast. We're on Go Wild O2 Podcast. Website is
the02podcast.com.
Yeah, the02podcast.com. You can listen to the
Sportsman's
podcast
Empire.
on all of the podcast platforms.
Perfect. Great guys.
Thank
Super
you.
entertaining content. I mean,
Appreciate it.
you can tell that they're friends because they like to give each other shit all the time on it, and it's
That's
great.
it, man.
It makes easy listening. You know what I mean? So
Good luck with the rest of your seasons.
Yeah,
Thank
thank
you.
you. Same to you guys.
Thank you.
awesome.
Yep.
Thank you, everyone. Take care. All right, everyone. That is all we have for you today. We hope you enjoyed that conversation with Andrew and Paul. They do a great job on their podcast, and we're happy to call them good friends. So now that you're done with our latest episode, head over to theirs and give them a follow too. As always, we appreciate you listening, and until next time, enjoy the pursuit.